If you're looking for a way to completely automate your social media content creation, this is the video for you. I'm going to show you step by step how I created this make.com automation, which allows me to turn one piece of content, which could be an article post or it could be a YouTube video for my example, into a LinkedIn post, a Twitter thread, email, a blog post, and I'll show you how to do any other format that you want, for example, Instagram or Facebook. The great thing about this is that we're utilizing GPTs, which are bots that have been trained for each individual social media platform. So it's not just random fluff that ChatGPT creates, are highly engaging, really well made posts that are designed to perform well on each of the platforms. In my last video, I talked about this, but the whole automation was super clunky. I was brand new to make.com. I had about 7 pages for things that I now have on one single automation. To create this automation is going to take about 30 minutes, but I've created all the templates for you, which I didn't know in my previous video. When I say the templates are there's quite a few things that you have to tweak so that you guys obviously have your personal accounts, your Google Drive access, everything like that linked. I didn't cover that in my previous video. Again, I was brand new to this whole automation thing, but in this video, I'm going to give you a comprehensive step-by-step guide so you can actually have, by the end of this video, a functioning automation that allows you to do everything I said at the beginning. So before I show you how to build this insane automation, I just want to say 2 things. Firstly, this isn't just some random fluff that looks cool. I've actively used this exact automation to post across all my social media platforms in a few minutes to promote this exact video. I ran this automation and it created all the content which I've posted across all my social media platforms to then funnel to this YouTube video. So it's not just some random fluff, it actually works and it's actually valuable to your online business. And secondly, I want to say thank you to make.com for partnering with the channel and sponsoring this video. Now you guys should be gassed too, because that means that everything to build this automation is provided to you guys for completely free. The templates, the blueprints, the prompts, the GPTs, everything is linked in the description for completely free, so you can actually build this entire automation. And not only that, they've given a 30-day free trial of the pro plan, so you don't have to spend any money up front to build this automation. I'm going to be posting a brand new tutorial for an automation that I'm actively using in my social media business every single month. So if you guys have a special request for an automation you'd like me to build that'll provide all the templates and all the blueprints and everything for free, then let me know in the comments. And now without further ado, let's jump in and build this AI social media automation. I'm almost finished yapping, I promise, but I just wanted to say this is going to be a long video, and because it's a comprehensive tutorial where I've done all the setup steps as well, just use the timestamps below and figure out where exactly you are. If you've never done a make automation, then you'll need to follow the entire video. If you have, then skip past the setup of the API and the Google account and the make.com account and the Airtable account, etc. And you'll be able to figure out using the timestamps where exactly is applicable to you. So anyway, enjoy the video. So here's the beginning steps that you need to do to set up before we actually build the automation. So firstly, we're going to need to go over to the Notion template, which will be linked down below, where you'll have all the links to the stuff you need to sign up for. So the first one, we need to register for a make account, and I'm going to do all of this step by step with you guys, and I'm actually going to create this automation for my girlfriend. So click the link and it's going to give you a 30-day free trial for the pro plan on Make. And then you're going to connect your Google account, EU, or wherever you're located, then click sign up for free. And now it's just going to ask you a bunch of different things on what you want to use Make for. Just click whatever your purpose is, and then boom, you're at the organization homepage, and that is your Make account set up. So next we want to go and set up an Airtable account. So if you click that link, it's going to take you through to Airtable, and just fill in with your contact information or continue with Google like I did for the Make account. Click continue. And then this is going to get you into Airtable, and this is basically like Google Sheets on steroids. And so just go in, you don't need to click a coworker, and you're all set up. And now you're at the home page of all workspaces. Then next, we need to set up an OpenAI API account, which basically allows you to put credits on to use ChatGPT in the back end of your automation. So again, click on the link in the Notion doc, then click continue with Google, then just quickly sign up with the name and your business and your date of birth, and then click continue. And then click on the API option on OpenAI's home screen. Then it's going to pop up, click get started. And then we want to go over to API keys. We want to create a new API key, but first we need to verify a phone number. So click start verification and enter in your phone number. Then it's going to send you a code and you should be able to input this. Okay, so name, this is just going to be make.com automation. and then default project, create a new key. So you want to save this key. So what I suggest is basically making a copy of this Notion template, and then you can add your own key things in there and save it. So I'm basically going to create a little section that says API key, secret key, and then paste it in there. So then save your private key, as you're going to need that later on. So now we're going to go on to usage, and we're going to click increase limit, and then we're going to go down, and where it says top up, we're going to click add a payment method, and here's when we're going to actually top up our API credits, which basically is like the balance that you have to use ChatGPT in the background. So input your bank details and then just literally do $5, and it's going to charge you a $1 fee. So then that's set up and you have your credits in your balance. That is basically you ready to go. So now let's go back to the Notion template. What we got to do is set up a Google account, a Google Drive folder access in a specific way so that we can literally drag and drop our files in and the automation will pick it up. So go into Google Drive, click new folder, create a brand new folder. We're going to call this automations. And then in this folder, create another folder and call it content to repurpose. And then in this folder again, we're going to click create a new one saying new content. This is where we're going to drag and drop all of our new content which we want to turn into these other social media posts. So now that's ready to go. Let's go back onto the home page, and we're going to need to actually install the templates to make.com. So you want to download the JSON files, and then you want to come to the new scenario, click three dots at the bottom, import scenario, and then you want to click the integration Google Drive, and then that's the first scenario imported. Okay, so then you want to click on the Google Drive, then you're going to connect to Google account and it's going to connect it. Then we want to actually go through and in the file registry, link to the exact folders that we want to use. So automations, then we want to click content to repurpose, then it's going to be new content, and then click OK, and then click OK. And then the next one is the Google Drive. Again, we want to connect to that Google account. Then we're going to go and we're basically going to get this ID which represents that folder. So it's the middle one. It's going to be the content to repurpose ID. Then you want to copy and paste that into there and click OK. And then the next one, we want to again connect it to a Google account. And then this one has to be the file ID from step 1 and then the folder ID from step 2. Then the final step is connecting to our Airtable account. So before we connect the Airtable account, which we'll do here, we need to go into the Notion template and we need to download the first Airtable template. So we click up, use this data, and then choose the workspace you want to save it to, which is my first workspace. And then we're going to create a new base. A base is basically just a table, and it's going to export the one that I created for you guys for you. And then here, we're going to change the name to Content Repurpose Automation. And then we're gonna rename the actual table view just content. And then we're gonna go into the Notion template and download the next table. And we're gonna click use data, add to workspace, and then we're gonna add it to the base, which is the one we just created, content repurpose automation. Then it's gonna load in and we're just gonna rename this one repurpose tasks. So now we've got both the templates imported into Airtable. There's a few updates which you guys need to make it actually work for your template. So first of all, we need to go and update the record ID. So go into edit field and then click change it from single line of text to a formula. So, and then in the actual, and then you can obviously delete the update section. And then in the actual formula box, just put rec and then click the record ID. Then you want to do a close bracket and click save. And then this is going to populate that with the code that you need. So now we're back in the make.com scenario. We can link the Airtable account and the base we just made with this automation. So let's do that. So we'll go back in, we'll click choose account, my Airtable token. Then we'll click add and connection type Airtable auth. Then click save. Then on this pop-up, you want to click add base, content repurpose, and then grant access. This is going to sync all the stuff automatically. And now we're going to change the base to content repurpose automation and the table to content. And here, we're basically going to grab the video name from step 1. So if you scroll down, and there, as you can see, name, click that, and it's going to highlight the step from the video ID we're also going to get from step 1, which is the file ID. Then the folder ID, we're going to get this from step 2, and that's everything that you need to add for this Airtable setup automation. So click OK, and we're done. Now we're going to go down and click save. So now it's time to actually test this first automation. And basically this is what we'd use to trigger the whole rest of this automation. So we're going to go to the Google Drive folder. We're going to click new content folder, and then we're going to upload an MP3 file of a YouTube video that we made. We'll drag and drop that, which is actually the last video I made about this. Once this is finished uploading, we're going to go and we're going to click run once on make. As you can see, it's recognized as a file in the Google Drive. It's created a new folder, it's moved it to the new folder, and it's created a new row in Airtable. So let's go check it out. As you can see, it's got the video name, video ID, and folder ID. And if we go over to Airtable right now, it's created the video name, video ID, and the folder ID. So let's go out of this automation, and now it's time to create the new scenario, which is the main star of this whole automation. Okay, so we're going to go up to create a new scenario, then we're going to go down to the 3 dots, import from blueprint, and then we're going to choose the AI social media content system. And then this will import the template that I made for you guys that's in the Notion doc below. So now we're going to actually change all the information in every step. So first of all, we need to create a webhook. We're going to call this webhook the content automation trigger, and then we're going to click save. So for anyone who doesn't know what a webhook is, it's basically a way of having applications interact with each other in the background. So click save, and then we're going to copy the address to clipboard, and then we're going to click OK. Then we're going to go over to Airtable, and we're going to paste this webhook URL in this column. So now we need to set it up. So when we click this workflow to YouTube video, the whole automation begins. So this is how we do it. Firstly, these need to be linked to the other table, but I don't think it's worked. So for the template, I suggest you guys go and delete this, and I'll show you exactly how to relink it. So I'm going to delete this field and delete this other field, and also delete the repurpose task field. Then we're going to scroll all the way over to the right, and I'm going to show you how to basically link them. So you just do link to another table and repurpose task. Not really sure what allow linking multiple records does, so I'll just turn that off. Click skip for now for the lookup fields, and then we're going to place this back to where it was previously. So we're going to build our first Airtable automation now, and this is where Airtable really comes into its own. So we're going to go up to the top here and click automations, add a trigger when a record matches a condition, and then select table, content, and then add condition when the workflow equals YouTube video. And then we're going to choose a record, which is basically just that column that we have. And then we're going to go and we're going to add an action, which is update a record. And then we're going to select a table, content, and then the record ID will just take the Airtable record ID, which is basically the unique number that refers to that box. And then we're going to go and we're going to grab repurpose task. And then we're going to just go and grab the record ID, which matches that repurpose task. So for the YouTube one, it's the top row. And then we're going to go back into automation and we're going to paste that into there. So now we'll run as configured and run a test. So it should extract the information when a workflow is applied, the YouTube title and description repurpose task is applied. So that worked. Turn this automation on, go back to here. So now we need to add the lookup field. So I'm going to cancel this, and when I apply this, boom, it should automatically pull that repurpose task. So that works. Now we need to get the webhook URL and the ID. So we're going to add a lookup field, then we're going to click ID and webhook URL, add fields, and that should import that information there. So now let's test it again, and it should import all 3 of those things automatically. So now we're going to test the automation. So workflows, YouTube video, and it should automatically apply those 3 boxes, which it does. And then you just want to quickly go over on make.com, make sure that the webhook URL matches the one from make.com, because the next step of the automation is going to actually trigger that webhook URL. So now let's build that next automation. Go over to automations, create automation, add a trigger when a record is updated, and then content, and then select field, and we're going to go repurpose tasks, turn this one on, and then choose a record and the one we've just had. And then now the next step is we're going to actually run a script. So for this, you're going to need an Airtable team account, but it's got a 14-day free trial. So if you just want to build this automation, test it out, and if you think that all of these subscriptions are adding up too much, then just play around for it for 2 weeks and see if it's worth it. It's going to add value to your business or your daily life. If not, just cancel. So I added all my card details, and as you can see, you get a 14-day free trial on that team plan. So we go back into the workspace. And now I'm going to go over into Make, and I'm basically going to connect the Airtable account now. So we'll choose an account, then we're going to click Add. I think they're just my previous accounts. I'm going to click Add, Airtable OAuth, and then we click save, and then it's going to pop up the same screen that we saw earlier where we basically need to grant authorization. So we're going to add base, and then we're going to actually click all current and future bases. So hopefully we don't have to keep granting this authorization and access. So click grant access, and that should be done, and now it should link to our account. So now we're going to go to the base, and we're going to link the base as the content repurpose automation, and then the table should just be content. So let's click that one, the all caps one, and then OK. So now we need to link our Google account. So it's going to actually pull the file from the Google Drive from earlier. So make sure that the file ID is taken from step 2, which is how Google and Airtable basically link together. Now we're going to unlink the step to ChatGPT so we actually test it. But first we need to build the automation that runs the script. So when a record is updated, and then we're going to click select table, content, and then repurpose task is the field we want to watch. So when that's updated, we'll choose that one. We want to run this script. So the script text file is linked down below. So basically delete this, go over to the Notion doc, and we want to copy this entire text here. We're going to go into here and we're going to paste that. Now we need to input some 2 variables. So the first one's the record ID. So copy that and paste it in there. And then the value of that record ID is just going to be the Airtable record ID. And then the second input is the webhook URL. So we're going to copy that and we're going to paste that in there. And then we're going to have to actually grab the value from the table, which is when you pasted it in that doc. So we'll scroll down, webhook URL, and you want to actually get the exact value. And then we're going to click test, and this should get picked up by this webhook. So let's test this out. And as you can see, boom, first step done. So now we've got the first part of the automation running, and that script's right. We'll click finish editing, and that is that automation step done. Turn this on, and we'll go back to the table. So now we should be able to test this. So we'll empty this workflow and we'll delete this repurpose task, and we'll try and test this automation. So click run once, and then we're going to go over and trigger that workflow, YouTube video. Then it's going to pull that repurpose task, and then it's going to run the script with the webhook, which will then ping this make automation, and then it should receive this data any second. Boom, boom, and boom. There we go. So that's the first half of the automation working. The webhook URL has been called, the record ID has been grabbed from that, and then the Google Drive access is grab the file ID from Airtable. So now it's time to connect your OpenAI account that you created earlier to this make.com automation. So my OpenAI automation, go and grab your API key that you saved earlier, the secret key. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it into there, and I'm going to click save. And then this is actually going to create your account and link it to the OpenAI. So now you want to grab the file from the step before, which is the Google Drive, and download a file. And the model we want to use is Whisper, but this should already be set up for you from this blueprint. So click OK, and then the next step is it's going to start basically sending the transcribed file to all of these different accounts. So now we need to link the OpenAIs. So at this stage, all the other steps should have the information inputted for you regarding to the prompt that you give ChatGPT to change the transcribed video. So it's just a case of making sure that you test each step now. So I'm going to go in and just make sure that everything is configured. Okay. And then this one, I'm going to connect this account as well. And I'm just going to quickly go through and connect all of these accounts to that OpenAI connection. Double check as you're going through this to make sure that all the prompts are in there, which they should be. And there you go. I'm going to quickly just fly through, connect all of these different accounts. Okay, so now I want to test just one. So I'm going to unlink these other connections, and we're just going to test the top ChatGPT to Airtable connection. So click the little spanner and then click unlink. Okay, so now we're just going to test this top automation. So we'll go back to Airtable, automations, then this first automation. I'm going to duplicate this one, and we're going to duplicate it for every single one of those ChatGPT prompts. So the next thing is LinkedIn. So when the workflow is LinkedIn, we want it to run this next automation. So go back to data, and then we're going to go delete this one and then put the LinkedIn workflow. And then the repurpose task will automatically get updated. So let's do this now. So the automation one copy. So when a task LinkedIn, choose a record. Now it's all find it, update a record, come down, and then we're going to delete this record ID because we want the column 2, which is this one. So copy this one over, copy the record ID, come over to automation, and then we're going to paste that in that box. So now when it triggers, when I activate the LinkedIn workflow, it's going to grab the information from that column, which is the LinkedIn repurpose task column. So that's now done. And as you can see, it's changed that for me. So now we can turn this automation, we're going to rename it LinkedIn, and we can turn this automation on. And now we're going to duplicate that again. And we're going to do this for every single one. So let's rename this to Twitter. And then when a record matches, we're going to click Twitter thread. And then we'll go to the data. I'll do this later. Content. And we're going to remove the workflow from LinkedIn to Twitter thread. And then I'm going to delete this repurpose task. Delete that. Okay, so now go back to automations. Make sure I'm on the right one. Make sure you're on the Twitter one. So click update a record. Now we're going to choose a record and it should recognize that one with that workflow activated. Update a record, content, Airtable record ID. And now we're going to go and grab the record ID from the Twitter thread repurpose task row. So come over to repurpose tasks. Now make sure you're in line with that one. Control C or Command C if you're on Mac, and then Command V. Paste that in there. Run as configured, run test. Make sure that it says Twitter thread workflow and then Twitter thread copy repurpose task. So that's done. Then we're going to turn that automation on. So now we're going to go back to the data column and then we're going to remove this workflow and start the next one. So delete Twitter cop, delete the workflow and remove the repurpose task. Go back up to automations and then we're going to duplicate this one again. Duplicate. And then we're going to change this one to email. So we'll rename the automation to email. And then we're going to go turn this on when a record matches, and then we're going to change the workflow to email, and then we want to click update, go back to data, click the workflow email, and then there we go. So it's linked the wrong one now, so we need to go down and we need to update that record ID so it matches the email. So go back to that one, click email, choose record, main one, and then update record. And right now it's got the record ID from Twitter, which is why I did that one. So let's go back to data, repurpose tasks, in line with the email copy one, copy this record ID, go back to automation, and we'll paste that one in there. Okay, so then we'll update that, run as configured, run test, and now should say, yeah, so it's cut out the Twitter thread copy and it's updated as email. So go back to data, content, and then we'll remove this one. And then the final workflow we're going to set up is going to be the blog post. So we'll go back to automations, we'll duplicate this email, and then we'll call this one rename automation blog post. And then we want when a record matches condition, the final workflow blog post, update a record. We'll go back to data and then copy the final record ID column, which is in line with the blog post copy, which is ID 5. And then make sure you're on the blog post automation, then Command A and then Command V. So run test. So we need to make sure that we've actually set this workflow. Don't show me that again, that's so annoying. Okay, so workflow, blog post. Okay, so now we should then be able to test that and it will come out. So scroll down, choose a record, this row, and then we should be able to run as configured, run test. So when the blog post workflow is, the repurpose task blog post copy is run. So then we'll turn this automation on, and then that's all of our automations set up in Airtable. So now what we want to do is when we click the status to start automation, we want to trigger the first workflow. So let me show you how to set that one up. So if I remove this, we'll go into automations, then I'm going to create an automation when a record matches a condition, content, add condition, when the status is start automation, which we'll go back to the data, we'll click status, start automation, so we can link that record and actually test it. So when the status is start automation, choose record, this row, add a trigger. We want to update a record that basically starts the first workflow. So content, Airtable record ID, and then choose field, and then we want to do workflow, and then we want to start the first workflow, which is the YouTube video one. Okay, so run as configured, and let's run that test. So basically, anytime I click start automation in the status, it's gonna trigger the first workflow, which will then start the entire automation, all from Airtable. So we'll rename this automation as start automation. There we go. And then we'll save that and go back to data. So now we have all the Airtable magic set up. It's time to remove this column and test it out. So back to make.com. Let me remove this and let me remove the workflow. And let's basically test this whole automation and see if it works. So now you have all the automations in Airtable set up on the left-hand side, which basically will then run all of these different social media posts. And you can obviously add your own if you want to. And this is going to basically trigger all of these 6 or 7 ChatGPT steps. Now in make.com, we're going to go and actually I'll show you how to set this up. So first of all, we want to grab the record ID from step 1, which is going to be the trigger. And then we want to grab the information from ChatGPT. But first of all, we need to get the tables right. So we're going to do the repurpose task has to be null. So basically this will remove that task once this step is done. And then on the workflow, we want to turn mapping off and we want to select that option. So we want it to say running when the first task is going, so you can visually see that's not finished. The first workflow is YouTube video, and then just make sure that the ChatGPT prompt is YouTube title. And then to basically grab that information from the first step, we go to choices, we go to message, and then we go for message content. And therefore this will now input in Airtable the message content that ChatGPT step creates. So now it's time to actually save and run this. So we're going to run this using the existing data that we sent previously. So it's going to download the file, it's going to transcribe it with Whisper AI, and then the router is going to send it to ChatGPT. It's going to run through a prompt and it's going to store that information on Airtable. So let's go check and see if we've got 10 ideas for titles. So YouTube titles, open up this box, and there we go. There's the 10 ideas for the titles. So that step worked. So let's go back to make, and now let's link the other ChatGPT prompt and then link this to the table. So this one, we get the record ID again from step 1, which is that webhook. Then we're going to go down and status, we're going to make sure that that's running again, so we'll visually see. Then this next step is going to be YouTube video still, and the repurpose task is going to be null, because again, we want this to be, when this run is to be cancelled. And then the YouTube description this time, we want to go choices, message, and then content, and then click OK. And then we're going to link the next step, which is going to be the LinkedIn copy. Which make sure it is, oh no, the Twitter thread. So make sure to just go double check. So now we're going to link to this account. Record ID we get from step 1. Go down, scroll down, click record ID. And then again, turn off mapping. We're going to go keep status as running, and I'll show you what that means later on. Then we're going to make sure we use the Twitter thread, and then repurpose task again, null. Okay, and now we're going to go to the next step. So then link that. And then this one is the LinkedIn post. So, okay, we'll go into the Airtable, link it to our Airtable account. And then we're going to record ID again from step 1. And then the status, we're going to still set that as running. And workflow, we're going to set that as the LinkedIn workflow. Repurpose task as null. And then we're going to go into the LinkedIn copy box, and we're going to go again, choices, message, content, which is basically the output from that ChatGPT. And then we're going to go and we're going to link these again, the next step, to the router, which this one is the email. So we'll click Airtable, link it again. Then we're going to go record ID from step 1. And then turn off mapping, running, turn off workflow. And this is going to be email workflow. And then repurpose task map, and then null. And then go down to the email copy, and then we're going to go on the star, and we're going to grab that from the third step of the, or the fourth step, choices, message, content. Okay, then the final step is the blog post. So we'll link that to the router as well. And then we'll go to Airtable, double check to make sure, yeah, it's definitely the blog post. Okay, and then we're going to click OK. Airtable, choose an account, my Airtable, make sure it's linked to content repurpose automation and content, record ID from step 1 again, and then status, we're now going to change it to finished because this is the final step of the automation. So you'll visually see in Airtable that the automation's done. So in the workflow, we're going to have that the blog post, the final one, then repurpose task null to remove it basically so it's finished. And then blog post, copy, we're going to go and grab the information from the step previously. So choices, message, content. Okay. So now that is everything linked. So the information will come from Whisper AI, run through all the ChatGPT prompts, and then actually output the corresponding information to each of the rows in Airtable. So let's go and delete everything out of our Airtable, and we'll actually run this automation and test it. So clear out all these boxes. Then we're going to go click run once, wait for new data. Then we're going to go over and we're going to click status, start automation. And now this is an example of what exactly the whole process will do. So let's go over and watch it in Make. So now it's waiting for the information to be picked up by the webhook. So there we go. Let's grab the information, passed it to Airtable, downloaded the file from Google Drive, running it through Whisper AI to transcribe it. Then the router is going to send it to the first ChatGPT step, which is basically going to turn that transcription into 10 YouTube titles. And then it's going to populate that over in Airtable in that corresponding column. As you can see, the YouTube titles. And then it's running the next step, which is going to get the YouTube description. And as you can see, the status is updated to running. So now I know this automation is running. So if it's going slowly or if it fails and I come back to it, because obviously you don't need to watch this. If I come back to it and it still says running, then I know something went wrong. So now it's done YouTube description and the workflow is YouTube video still. So when I know the next step is running, go back to Make. So once this one's completed, it should say Twitter thread. So let's see, go back to Airtable. As you can see, Twitter thread and the status is still running. So now it's pulling that repurpose task, which is the Twitter thread copy, and then it's should populate in the Twitter copy box. Not sure why it hasn't, but okay, so let's continue the next step. We'll go at the end of the automation and we'll finish that off. So the next step is populated. As you can see, the LinkedIn copy has been added. I will slide across, and as you can see, the workflow reflects the LinkedIn. So then we go back to Make, and the next step is running. So I'm not sure why it's created the LinkedIn, the Twitter thread, but I'm not sure why it hasn't populated at Airtable. So we'll check that at the end. So let's scroll down, and the final step's running. And as you can see, the email copy's there, the blog post. The only one's missing is the Twitter thread. Once this is finished, we'll quickly go in and check the steps to make sure we set everything right. So as you can see, it's got everything but the Twitter copy. So let me go back, and the status has now updated to finish. So now I know the whole automation's run. So repurpose task. So now let me just double check this Twitter thread step. So yeah, it's definitely got the information there. Let me scroll down. I don't think I updated it to actually fill the message from ChatGPT. So Twitter thread is linked, and as you can see, yeah, look, so I just need to link that. So now it's easy to see visually, message, content, and now I'll link that, and then we can actually delete everything and run this whole automation again, just to make sure that everything actually is working. So let's click run once, use existing data, and let's quickly just go into Airtable, and I'm just gonna delete all the content information that is just run so we can redo this again. So as you can see, it's started and it's gonna run the transcription again, and then it's gonna fire off to all of the 6 steps. So I'm gonna speed this up and then I'll show you whether it worked at the end. So if we go into the main column ID and you tick the box, you can actually see every single thing being updated live, which again is really valuable. So as you can see, the Twitter copy is actually working now. The LinkedIn, the blog post, and the email are all loading, and that is the whole automation finished. All the 5 social media posts done, plus the YouTube titles, plus the YouTube description, has all been completed. So that is exactly how to build that. So that's the whole automation built and the simplest version of this. So now let me give you some skills and some tools on how you can actually go and improve this to make it more relevant to whatever your need is. So I'm going to show you how to create your own GPT agents. Instead of using the prompts here, we're going to actually get ChatGPT to talk to an assistant. And then secondly, I'm going to show you, if you'd like to, how to link and have this post straight to your social media. But for me, having it on that Airtable column and just copy and pasting it works perfectly fine. So let's jump into that, and then that's going to be a wrap on the video, guys. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to cover how to actually create your own custom GPTs, which are those highly trained bots to make sure that your social media outputs are as best as they possibly can be. So in the OpenAI account settings, you can actually go in and create your own assistant. So I'm going to show you an example of a Twitter bot. So I'm just named a Twitter bot, and here you can give it additional instructions, which I'll drop for you guys in the Notion template, exactly the instructions you should give it for LinkedIn, for an email, for Twitter, and for a blog post. And then here you'll also be able to allow it to actually search through files which you'll upload, which will contain examples of LinkedIn or Twitter posts that perform really well, or the tonality and style of writing that you actually want your emails or your blog posts to have. So once you've actually created your assistant, how do you then actually have that integrate with your make.com automation? So let me show you. So in Make, we'll come to this automation. I'll click Add Router. So instead of this one being a ChatGPT request, here we're actually going to click OpenAI, and then we're going to scroll down and message an assistant. Here, if you have an assistant made, you'll then be able to actually drop down and look, we've got the Twitter bot right here. This way, instead of actually just going to the generic ChatGPT, your request will be sent to this assistant, which has a lot more data for the style of content that you want it to output. How do we actually go and automatically upload to social media platforms? So here we can literally find them. So let's just, for example, say Twitter, and then create a post. And you literally just search up the social media platform you want to link, create your connection, and you'll automatically be able to schedule posts in that. Again, I'll do a full breakdown in my next tutorial, but that's basically it for this video without making this video way too long. If you've enjoyed it, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and more importantly, if there's anything that you want me to try and build, let me know in the comments. I'm thinking about an email newsletter, but not just any old emails newsletter, a launch formula. So if you give it like your whole storyline and a 7-day launch process, whether it can actually formulate these emails, and it can actually take this outline structure and then create emails for you to launch products. So this will be good for a welcome flow where you launch digital products to new subscribers, or just if you want to launch a new product anywhere, where it could be physical, digital, info product, etc. That's my next thought for building out an automation that would actually be valuable to people. Let me know if you have any other questions about this automation. You can join my free school community down below, as well as my Discord, and message me on there or on Instagram or any other social media platforms. That's a wrap. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next week. Your boy's gone skis.